Hello and welcome back to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my Guardian of the Galaxy t-shirt on, my King of Kings movie right next to me, and judging by the frame around me, we are back taking down another atheist. Today, back on the chopping block is SciManDan and his video, Witness the Worst Argument for a Young Earth Ever. In the last episode, because I haven't done this in a couple weeks, in the last episode, he was talking about... Ken Hovind was talking about language, about how a serpent allowed Satan to use him to talk to Eve, and then he was trying to then say that the serpent, having that, having that usefulness, didn't have to learn how to crawl on his belly because he already crawled on his belly. Because God wasn't actually cursing the serpent, he was cursing Satan, and basically saying you're now like a serpent, you're going to crawl on your belly, because he was showing what was going to happen in Genesis chapter 3. And then Dan says, well, how many serpents were there? Is that a trick question? Or do you really want an answer? Because I can give you an answer. I'm not sure you're going to like it. But I can give you an answer, Dan. Okay? It's like the chicken and the egg. What is the egg? The egg is a gamete, right? So you can't have an egg without a sperm cell, which means you can't have a chicken, a new baby chicken, without both the rooster and the hen. So, obviously, God being omnipotent, knowing that he would have to do things, okay, when he created life, what did he do? Created male and female. Okay, he created them male and female. So he obviously created enough animals to start the life cycle. Hence why in the flood account, okay, God brings to Noah pairs of animals, male and female. Okay? We would assume that that's exactly what God did. So how many of them were there? You would assume there's at least two. And remember, God is not striking the serpent dead in Genesis chapter 3. Okay? So if he's going to stand there, because, I mean, we haven't gone past this point, because he's starting a new thought right now, when I paused it and said probably pretty much what I'm saying right now, okay? And I'm going, come on, dude. He's probably going to be like, you know, if God's going to go and kill the serpent, God didn't kill the serpent, dude. He cursed the serpent. There's a difference there. Okay, get your mind out of Harry Potter. Yes, I'm pointing at Harry Potter's right here. Get your mind out of Harry Potter. There's no curses. Okay? There's no unforgivable curses. God is cursing the serpent to crawl on his belly all of his life. Then the serpent being Satan. Jesus says that much in the Gospels. Okay, so let's jump in and let's see where SciManDan goes with this.
God could have just created like 0 serpents. I don't know.
Why? Why would he have created 0 serpents? Aren't serpents important to the ecosystem? I mean, if serpents are so unimportant to the ecosystem, why don't you go out and exterminate them all? I thought they were important to the ecosystem. I thought that was part of the whole, web of animals, right? That they always taught us in science. Or should I say, science! Exclamation point, trademarked. Because if they're not that important, that God didn't have to create one. Come on, man. Think about it. Either they are important, which means that they had to have had been created, okay? Or They're not that important, and therefore, no animals on this planet are important. Right? Which is it? You see the logic here? You see the lack of logic by Dan? He's not actually offering anything of substance. He's just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping it sticks. That's not how it works, Dan. Okay? If you're going to come up with a well-reasoned argument, come up with a well-reasoned argument. Don't just be like, oh, couldn't he have just created 0 serpents? Are serpents vital to keeping down the population of mice? I think so. Because they're predators, right? That's the whole point. Okay? God created everything, and yes, before the fall, everything was vegetarian, including snakes. After the fall, not so much. Humans were still vegetarians. Very much so. Okay? Now, there might have been some meat eaters. There might have been. Okay? We don't know that for sure because the Bible doesn't record it. Okay? We're making inferences. I just talked about this in my IP video that I filmed this week. Basically, you have the same inferences that everyone else has that's in the Bible. The inference there is that up until the flood, post-flood, okay, humans didn't eat animals. Okay? Especially in the Garden of Eden before the fall. Okay? Because Genesis 1, 28 through 30 is very, very clear that, yes, man was to subdue the earth and rule over it, but they were also to eat plants. Animals were told to eat plants by God. Okay? And since nobody seems to believe me, and God blessed them, and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you, he's still talking to Adam and Eve here, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food, and it was so. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that supposed to be some mind-blowing revelation? This is the problem with eisegesis and with your worldview. You can't see past the fact that when God created everything, okay, they were vegetarians/vegans. It's just how it was back then. And in Genesis chapter 8 and 9, after the flood, God says, here, you can now eat meat. And people are probably going to be like, well, why would he do that? He's God. And he knew that we needed more than just plant protein. Okay? Because the proteins that make us up are the same proteins that are in animals. And besides, a steak is friggin' delicious. And guess what? God loves a barbecue. Is that supposed to be a surprise? Every time in the Old Testament, okay, when God says to offer a burnt offering, most people think it was like a perfumey thing. No! The burnt offering was the animal. God was savoring the scent of the animals that were sacrificed for that person's sins. If that person was truly repentant, if they put their hand on the animal's head and said, I transfer my sin to this animal, and I truly repent of the sins that I've committed, and then they kill it, God accepts that sacrifice as an atonement. Okay? And then they would cut it up, and they'd take out all the entrails, just like we normally do with meat. They'd cut it up, they'd throw it on a barbecue. And God would accept that burnt offering as a pleasing aroma. It's what it says multiple times. in the 5 books of Moses. If you'd bother to read it. And look, I'm not saying that you can't be a vegetarian and you can't be a vegan. But God loves a barbecue. He really does. Okay? So the next time you pass your neighbors and they're having a barbecue and you smell burning meat, don't get mad. Okay? If you're a vegetarian or a vegan. Especially if you're a Christian. God loves a barbecue. He literally does. And also, that meat was for the Levites to eat. Okay? That's the reason for the sacrifices. That's the reason why we don't have to sacrifice animals anymore now that Jesus came. Okay? That's the whole point. Okay? The whole point is that, yes, there was vegetarians and vegans pre-flood. But after the flood, probably because it took a while for things to grow, okay, and for people to start gathering enough seeds, God was like, here, kill and eat the animals. Because in some cases, like rabbits, there's a reason why we say they breed like rabbits, right? Because rabbits will have many, many babies, okay? Think about it. So that's the point here, guys, is that how many serpents were there? Enough to propagate life. However many that may be. Again, is that supposed to be a surprise? Seems like it to Dan, because he doesn't seem to understand that. But that's just basic frickin' common sense based on absolute basic biology. That you need a male and a female to mate. If they're not doing this, you're not having anything, man. Think about it.
The evolutionists are going to be without excuse judgment day.
It's true.
There's no excuse for you to believe you're just an animal. Just the language we speak puts us miles above any of the animals.
It does.
Man is different. We're made in God's image. The animals are not. There's something different about man than there is all the animals and plants on the planet.
Very true.
There are not many things that make me feel sick to my stomach, but the egotistical nature of humans is definitely one of them.
says the evolutionist, who literally believes that we're the pinnacle of evolution. Whose own side put the second sapien on the back of sapien, so it said Homo sapiens sapien, so that they could literally call themselves wise twice, is going to stand there and say, you religious people, you're so egotistical. Hypocrite much, Dan? Seriously, dude, what the hell are you talking about? It is not egotistical to sit there and think that we as human beings, every human being on the planet, okay, Kent isn't saying, oh, I'm special, you're not. He's saying all human beings are created in the image of God. Did you not fucking listen to him, man? Oh my God, that is the biggest fail I think I've ever seen Dan do, and that is actually saying something here. He completely missed Kent's point. Kent is not trying to boast, okay? Kent is not trying to boast in himself like the evolutionists do. The evolutionists are the ones saying, we're the pinnacle because we developed language, and we developed this, and see, we developed how to walk upright, and we developed how to do this, and we developed how to do that. You see, we're not like all the other animals, we're the best. That's egotistical, Dan. Are you that thick? Yes, the answer is yes on that, okay? You are that thick, because you'd have to be that thick not to understand that Kent isn't boasting about being superior. He is saying that, unlike the rest of the animal kingdom, to which Your side, Dan, says, okay, that we're a part of. Unlike the other beasts of the animal kingdom, we are different. We have art, music, language. Okay? As I mentioned in the last one, show me a monkey that has created Shakespeare. Show me a monkey that has created beautiful works of art without having to be shown. Okay? It's not there. It's not there. They don't have the capacity to create, to adapt, to do everything that we have done. Okay? For heaven's sake, man, take a friggin' look around you. Man is different. And that is shown all through the Bible, and that is not egotistical to say. What's egotistical is this maniac thinking that he is some kind of, I'm superior to everybody, I'm superior to all the other animals, and then standing there and going, well, it's egotistical to say that we're made in the image of God. That's not egotistical at all. That's why I was laughing so hard. The sheer hypocrisy of Dan. That is just, oh my God, it's so funny.
Who are we to say we are the superior species?
Your side says it all the time. Are you not paying attention in class? Like literally almost every single biology textbook says that man is the pinnacle of evolution. Yeah. I mean, look, I may not be able to take on a bear hand to hand, but I can create tools where a bear just has its claws and teeth. Okay? I can escape up a tree where a bear can't climb after me. Okay? And I can shoot the bear from a distance. With bows, with guns, with spears, with a whole bunch of other things. Okay? Man's been doing it for years. Thousands of years at this point. Okay? To think that we're not the pinnacle of creation, and what I just read in Genesis 1, 28 through 30, where it literally says to rule over nature, okay? I mean, that's the whole point, Dan. That's what Romans 1 is all about, okay? You'd rather worship the created things rather than the creator. That's the point that Kent is bringing up, okay? And again, it is not egotistical to say that. Like I said, the funniest part to me, okay? The funniest part to me was when he sat there and was like, it is egotistical to say that we're the top of the food chain. Really? Are we not the top of the food chain? Well then who is? Tigers? Lions? Bears? Every time that a lion or a tiger or a bear has mauled a human being, it has been tracked down and killed. Still think we're not top of the food chain? We're the ultimate omnivore. We eat both plants and animals. And yes, like bears, they're omnivores. They will eat meat and will eat plants. But I'm saying we're the ultimate one because we're the ones that have dominion over everything. It's literally right there. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God, or give thanks to him. But they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. Therefore God gave them up to the lusts of their hearts, to the impurity of dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. There's Paul in Romans 1, verses 18 through 25, predicting the rise of evolution. It's what you do, Dan. It's what this guy does. He worships the creature rather than the Creator. He wants you to think that the layers in the dirt and the bones in the dirt came here by chance, billions of years ago. Just random chance, just happened to put you all together. And it is not egotistical to say, I think that's more egotistical to say that than it is, and then to say, and then we appeared and we are the superior product because we are Homo sapiens sapiens. They literally say that. They literally say that. We are Homo sapiens sapiens. And you can look that up. It is absolutely asinine to sit here and think that by Kent Hovind's saying that we are created in the image of God, unlike other beasts who were formed to be subdued, okay, and to be ruled over by man, that is not egotistical to say, okay? Because Kent isn't standing there saying, I'm superior to y'all. Is that what you think he said, Dan? Because if that's what you think he said, maybe you should go back and actually listen to what Kent told you.
There are animals that can see better than us, hear better than us, smell better than us.
What does that have to do with anything? Just because I can't smell something miles away doesn't mean I can't hear it. Doesn't mean I can't see it. Come on, Dan. Yeah. Why do you think we domesticated the wolf into the dog, dude? Okay? It's part of the subduing. Have you not been paying attention? Yeah, you'll notice that, but none of those have created the civilization that we have. So what does that tell you? Just because they can see better, hear better, smell better, doesn't mean they're better at everything. If it was so advantageous for animals to be able to walk upright and carry tools, why haven't every single animal on Earth be like anthropomorphic animals we see in anime and, and sci-fi and everything else? Huh? Come on! If it's so evolutionarily advantageous to be walking upright, carrying tools, why hasn't everything else done that? Huh? Come on, tell me. I keep asking this question, and no one can answer. Not even the evolutionists know the answer to this question, because they don't have an answer. They're just like, oh, well, that's just what they evolved with. No! If they are supposed to have the same kind of homologous structures as us, and they're supposed to have all the same things as us, why didn't they evolve like us? Huh? Why are they still crawling around on all fours? Why are monkeys still not using tools? Huh? You're so vaunted about these apes being so superior because you think we descended from them. Why aren't they using tools? And some people will say, well, they use some rocks every once. Yeah, they use a rock every once in a while. But that's not the same thing. Look at what human beings have created just in the last 2,000 years. Think about it. Since Christ until now, think of what we created. Think of what happened just in the last 40 to 50 years since we went to the moon. And think about this. It took us less than 100 years. Less than 100 years to go from the first flight at Kitty Hawk in 1903 to landing on the friggin' moon in 1969. Where were the animals? These supposedly vaunted, more intelligent, faster, better, smarter animals. Come on, Dan, where are they? Oh, they're still out there, killing and eating, because they have the most basic of needs. Because they're not like us! Oh, was that supposed to be some big revelation? Was that... Did that make your mind blow? I hope if you're an evolutionist, I hope it did. I hope you realize now that what man has created, no animal on earth ever will. This ain't no Douglas Adams fantasy where they have, babblefish and then the dolphins are talking to us so long and thanks for all the fish. That ain't this. That ain't this. People like Dan have a rude awakening coming. And when it hits, it's going to hit hard.
Have better immune systems, could rip us to pieces and kill us with a single blow.
Yeah, and yet we have body armor, we have weapons they don't have, okay? We have things that they're able to do. We have things that they're not able to do. Like I said, yes, can a bear rip me to pieces? Yeah, if I went hand to hand with a bear could technically rip me to pieces. But I have certain advantages the bear will never have. I could go out and face a bear wearing complete plate mail. Let's see the bear try to rip me apart then. Take a lot longer for him, wouldn't it? I have a machine gun. What would that do to a bear? Okay? Like I said, I could climb up in a tree and put a stand, and I can shoot the bear with a rifle right in between its rib cage into its heart. Can a bear do that? Can a lion do that? You're acting like these animals are somehow so superior to man when we realized that these animals could turn on us in an instant, okay? We created defenses so that the animals couldn't rip us to pieces. We created things that the animals have had thousands of years at this point, and if you want to believe the evolutionists, tens of thousands of years to develop as well, to defend themselves from us. Where's their plate mail? Where's their, hard carapace shell that they're supposed to develop because, being shot by a bullet or being stabbed by even just a piece of wood? Okay? Because like some of the pygmy tribes, how they keep lions away from them is they use wooden spears. Yeah, wooden spears. That's it. Because they understand the same way that we do that if a lion gets into their village and rips somebody to shreds, they have to kill it. Because then it develops a taste, becomes what's known as a man-eater. You can watch the movie Ghost in the Darkness with Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas for that. Okay? This is based on a true story. And the pygmies have been fending off lions in Africa for literally thousands of years at this point. So if lions are so evolutionarily advantageous, why aren't they walking upright and carrying spears of their own to kill the pygmies so that they can eat them? You see the absence of logic here? You see that this isn't really an answer. This is just him reacting because he doesn't want to accept the fact that, yes, humans are the pinnacle of God's creation. And we are imbued with the same mind of God, the same imagination as God, to be able to say, oh, that animal attacked me and I don't want that to happen again, so I'm going to defend myself. Oh, hey, look, there's this tree and it's got kind of a pokey end on it. Yeah, I think that'll work. Stab. Oh, hey, look, it did. Are ya flippin' stupid, Dan? Come on, man, use some common sense. That, yes, we're told, yeah, don't go out in the woods. Don't go out there. There's cougars and coyotes and all that kind of stuff. What do? You carry a gun. That's what you do. I mean, this is the height of stupidity.
Yet some of this species that I belong to have the gall, nay hubris, to suggest that we are the most superior species on Earth.
Again, Dan, why are we not? Where are the upright walking lions? Where are the upright walking bears? And no, I don't mean when a bear wants to scratch its back so it kind of goes like this, or when it wants to put on an intimidation display, it stands up for 2 seconds and then goes right back down on all fours. I'm talking about walking around on 2 legs. I mean, I can guarantee you, okay, if a bear went walking into the city right now, walking on 2 legs, carrying a baseball bat going, alright, which one of y'all killed Frank? I don't know, you killed Frank, I'm gonna kill you. People would be like, what the hell? That never happens. If all of this stuff that we have is so evolutionarily advantageous, why aren't more animals doing it? That's my question. Give me your best answers in the comment section below. Okay? If it's so evolutionarily advantageous. Because I asked that of some of the biology teachers, okay, some of my biology teachers when I was in school, and some biology teachers when I was a parapro. I'd ask them that question. If it was so evolutionarily advantageous for opposable thumbs, communication, upright walking, living in huts, building houses, why the hell haven't the monkeys done it yet? And none of them could give me an answer. Because they don't have one. And I'll tell you now, it's because we're not monkeys. We're not descended from monkeys. We have a completely different bone structure, and the way that we walk, the way that we move, okay, is completely different than the apes. The apes are knuckle walkers. They have very long bones here. We're not knuckle walkers. Ever seen a baby crawl? I'm going to assume Dan hasn't. Because if you watch a baby crawl, does the baby crawl like this? Or does the baby crawl like this? Because crawling like this puts a lot of stress on this, because you know what? Our wrist moves. This is a lot more stable. You watch a monkey's wrist doesn't move that much. And their bones, basically from here all the way back up their arm, are almost all one solid piece. And their arms, like our arms, aren't completely straight like this, okay? Their arms are mostly straight and long, okay? Yes, they do have some articulation at the elbow, but their forearms are a lot longer than ours, okay? And therefore, their hands and their arms are a lot straighter than ours. So when they walk around and they do things, they don't have to worry about that, okay? We're not knuckle walkers, dude. We never have been. And every single ape-like ancestor that these evolutionists throw in front of you are knuckle walkers. They all are. Oh, they'll try to dress it up like they are, but like they never found any hand bones and they never found any feet bones for Lucy, which is supposedly the earliest hominid. It really isn't, because it's just a bonobo ape species, or it's just an extinct ape. Okay, and they know from forensic analysis that the bones of Lucy, the skull fractures, died because she fell out of a tree. If she was supposed to be some human-like ancestor that was walking upright, what the hell was she doing in a tree? And how do you know she had any offspring before she died? How do you know she wasn't the last one and died? You see the problem we start to run into with this kind of stuff when you talk about bones in the dirt? You don't know that those bones had any children. You don't know that those bones were changing into anything else. All you know is that those bones were something. What that something was, you don't know. And that's the point. Dan doesn't know. He's spitballing.
We have one thing that sets us apart from all other species on this planet, and that is higher intelligence. And even that is a very, very tenuous claim sometimes.
I will agree. I will agree. But intelligence is only as good as the wisdom to use it. Because it's not intelligence that makes you super smart. It's wisdom that makes you smart. Okay? As the old adage goes, intelligence is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing you don't put a tomato in a fruit salad. It's not intelligence that makes you smart. It's wisdom. And that's what I was saying before. They taught these apes how to sign, and the apes don't teach their offspring. Like we teach our offspring how to talk, how to walk, how to crawl, how to ride bikes, how to drive cars, how to go to school, how to learn things, how to read, how to do everything. We pass on our knowledge, okay? Through teaching, coaching, mentoring, parenting. And when we don't do that, what happens? Yeah, people revert to animalistic behaviors because they don't know any better. And that much is true if you just, pick up the Bible and read it every once in a while there, Dan. That, yeah, when people weren't treated properly, they do revert to an animalistic tendency. Oh, is that supposed to be some kind of weird revelation? Some mind-blowing shock? You'd have to be some kind of an idiot not to understand that. But just because we act like animals doesn't mean we came from animals. Doesn't mean we rose from animals.
We belong on this earth with all other species. We share this earth with all other species.
I will agree. We do. And God told us to subdue it and rule over it. I submit we've done that. I mean, like I said, when an animal goes bad, don't we hunt it down and kill it? When a dog bites a child, don't we put it down? Isn't that subduing and ruling over? Don't we domesticate fish and dogs and cats? You can domesticate anything, given enough time. I mean, I was mentioning it in my inspiring philosophy video that I just filmed this week. You break a horse. How do you break a horse? You show the horse. Basically, the breaking process just involves you getting the horse to understand that you want to ride on its back. Okay? So you tame its spirit enough that you can get on its back and you can ride it. so that it doesn't go, because if you were to go out to a wild horse, okay, and you were to just jump on that wild horse's back, okay, that horse is going to rear up and throw you off. And then it's going to go running off. Because that horse doesn't understand that you want to ride on it. That horse doesn't understand that you just want to ride on its back. That horse probably thinks you're some kind of predator. Do you understand? Subduing the earth and ruling over it. That's what we've done, man. Because whenever humans come into an area, things leave. With the exception of a few things. Like certain types of insects, like spiders and praying mantises and stuff like that. Okay, locusts. Grasshoppers, butterflies, bees, wasps, hornets. But most of those are insects. They can coexist with just about anything. Okay? But animals, they go, oh, there's humans. And they leave. They're more afraid of us than we are of them. And 90% of the time, when something attacks you, it's because they feel threatened. They feel like their territory has been violated. And they're just attacking to protect. They're not exactly going, hey, get off my lawn. Now, if a bear stood up in the woods, okay, and was like a mama bear, and was like, all right now, you're close to my offspring, back up, buddy. You can bet I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry. Hey, yo, cool. Take it easy, chill. I'm out. They don't do that. Instead, what do? They stand there and they put on displays of intimidation. That's what the growling and the standing does, is it puts on a display of intimidation. Because that's what they'll do if another bear comes along. Or some other predator comes along to eat their children, to eat their offspring. They're gonna do displays of intimidation to kind of say, back off, buddy. You don't want a piece of this. Most people don't get that. Those animals, the reason why they don't come here is because they're more afraid of us than we are of them. Okay? I mean, Dan's trying to make it seem like, oh, if we go outside of our cities, man, we're going to get ripped apart. No, we don't. I've gone camping in various places where there have been coyotes and wolves and cougars, bears. Never had a problem with them. I've been in places where my dad and I hiked in, or would drive up to a place and park, and we would camp. We never had any problems with any of the animals. Because generally speaking, they smell humans, they stay away. Okay? They don't typically want to mess around with humans. Which means, yeah, when God told us to subdue the earth, we did. To rule over the earth, we have.
To think we've got some obligation to stand up above all these species and claim we're superior is simply ridiculous.
Which is what your side does all the fucking time, Dan. Why do you think they named every other species on the planet, okay? Let's just say it this way. Every other species on the planet has 2 Latin names that they give it. Okay? The one that they gave for humans was Homo sapiens. And thinking themselves wise, because that's what sapiens means, okay? It means wise beings, wise similar beings, okay? They put another sapiens on the back of it. That's why I was laughing so hard earlier, dude. You still don't get it, do you? You're literally being a hypocrite. Your side does this, proclaims that we're the pinnacle of evolution, and yet when we say we're the pinnacle of creation, because we were created last in God's image, it's clearly in the Bible, okay? And that wasn't Moses being hyperbolic, okay? He was literally writing down what God told him to say, okay? It's not like Moses was thinking, hey, we're top of the food chain, so, yeah, hey, we're created in the image of God. No, that wasn't it, Dan. Your side says that all the time. We're the pinnacle of evolution. We're getting more complex. We're doing more things. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're better than all the other animals because we're smarter and we do more things. We do this. We do that. And that's why I'm asking you. Look at your own side, son. Seriously. Look at it. Look at what your theory says. I don't think this guy knows what the evolution theory actually states. That our brains, because we can process language and music and art and culture, we're the pinnacle of evolution. That's what they've been saying. And yet, when somebody like Kent Hovind or Ken Ham or David Rives says we are human beings created in the likeness of God, in the image of God, people like him are going to go, ooh, that's so arrogant. Why? Your side says it all the time, you hypocrite. Go look at your own damn theory. And I can already hear the keyboards. No, we've never said that. Yes, you do. Go listen to Richard Dawkins. Hell, just go listen to Aaron Ra for 5 minutes. And if you can cut through all the BS, he'll tell you, yeah, we're the pinnacle of evolution. Because we have language, and we have art, and we have this, and we have that. They all say it. So either Dan is extremely ignorant of his theory, or he's the biggest hypocrite on the planet. You choose.
Sorry, rant over. Okay, Kent, come on. Where is this scientific evidence you were banging on about at the beginning?
How long have humans been on Earth? Well, our ancestors may have been around for about 6 million years. The modern form of humans only evolved 200,000 years ago. Civilization, as we know it, only about 6,000 years ago. Whoa, who'd have thunk it? Isn't that kind of what the Bible says, at least about God starting everything 6,000 years ago? What the dates add up to in the Bible.
What, so you take that one as a fact, but ignore the 200,000 and 6 million values?
Yes, because how do you know that the 200,000 and 6 million values are actually valid, Dan? I have a book that's backed up by mountains of evidence. What does your theory have? Oh, that's right. Layers of dirt with bones in them. That they've arbitrarily, that a lawyer from Scotland, by the way, a lawyer, not even a scientist, went out and said, this layer is this many millions of years old, this layer is this many, this many, this many, this many. Actually, I think he started at hundreds of thousands, and then they went to millions because they realized that they didn't have enough time. Because that's your God, isn't it? Time. Oh, if we only had enough time. We'll never see it in our lifetime because there's not enough time. That's their God. Jim Strayer, in the debate that Ken Hovind did, the 3-on-1 debate, his was DNA. Literally, his was DNA. Banged on about DNA for like 5 whole minutes. What DNA could and couldn't do. And I'm like, have you studied DNA there, buddy? Because if it was so, if it was so genetically possible for all this stuff to happen, why hasn't it happened? Why does DNA degrade over time and not get more complex the more generations we do things? Probably because of the second law of thermodynamics, son. You have to overcome the entropy. And so far, nobody's proved that. and the sheer fact that Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalis are both humans. They're not primitive by any methods, because you can't prove that they were or weren't. Just because you find one in a cave next to some stone tools doesn't necessarily mean that he was some unintelligent caveman. There are plenty of people that live in caves that are very intelligent. Just saying.
Of course you do.
The first fully developed systems of word writing appear only about 5,000 years ago. First systems of writing down words. Do any animals do that? Write down words? Do any plants write down things? The oldest language that can reasonably be reconstructed is already modern, sophisticated, and complete. Already has adjectives, nouns, verbs.
Now, see, I want to point out something here, okay? Because Dan's made a lot of spurious claims, right? Okay? You look at what Kent Hovind put up there, okay? World Book Encyclopedia. The first developed systems of word writing appeared only about 5,000 years ago. That's based on, like, some of the inflated things of the Egyptians and various things like that, okay? That's... They think it was about 5,000 years ago, okay? Because they try to exclude the flood, and they've extended their lineage back much further than it actually does. Okay, they've tried to inflate their numbers to make them seem like they're older than they actually are. Okay, we know that. And then he puts up World Book Encyclopedia, which means you can go look that up. Go down to the thing and look up writing, look up different things, and you'll find it. Okay? Then he puts The Biological Nature of Man, G.G. Simpson, Science, Volume 152, April 22nd, 1966, page 477. You can go look up that. You can probably find that on the internet right now. Okay? That's why I have it paused right here. Okay? Because this is evidence. So if language was supposed to have been primitive when humans first started using it, then, because they always try to say, like you have cavemen who kind of talk in grunts and, monosyllables and very short phrases and stuff like that. But the oldest language that can be reasonably reconstructed is already modern, sophisticated, and complete from an evolutionary point of view, which means that language would have had to have been around when man was created. That's the point. And let's see how Dan is going to try to hand-wave this away.
In the first language. The evolution of language. They wrote an article about it. Oh, wow. The evolution of language. The emergence of language was a defining moment in the evolution of humans. It was an innovation that changed radically the character of human society. You can believe that if you want. This article goes on to say, language remains in the minds of many philosophers, linguists, and biologists a quintessential human trait. In other words, only humans have it.
Yep.
I would agree. Why don't you guys give up on this idea that...
And let's read the rest of this here. All human languages are thought to possess the same general structure and permit an almost limitless production of information for communication. This limitlessness has been described as making infinite use of finite means. The lack of obvious formal similarities between human language and animal communication has led some to propose that human language is not a product of evolution, but a side effect of a large and complex brain evolved for non-linguistic purposes. Outside of that last sentence there, okay, like, Lord of the Rings, anybody? Tolkien created his own languages. Star Trek? Anyone? Klingon? Vulcan? Okay. James Doohan created the entire Klingon language. Okay? He did. Most people don't realize that. Yes, the original guy that played Montgomery Scott, okay, in the original Star Trek show, James Doohan, okay, created Klingon for Star Trek the Motion Picture. They wanted the Klingons to be on screen, and they wanted them to have a language that you wouldn't understand. Because most of the times that we saw Klingons, they were in the presence of humans, which means that the humans had universal translators in their communicators that allowed them to hear the Klingon as English. Okay? That's the in-universe lore explanation. So for this film, okay, James Doohan sat down and created Klingon. And then from that, he and some others sat down and created the entire language. In fact, you can learn how to speak Klingon. Okay? And it's the same way with Elvish and Dwarvish. You can learn how to speak these languages, folks. Okay? Just like you can go learn how to speak Chinese, Japanese, Swahili, Hindu, Indian. Okay? You can learn how to speak Arabic. You can learn how to speak Farsi. You can learn how to speak Czech. You can learn how to speak Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, Russian, Moldovan, Ukrainian, Belarusian. Granted, most of those are dialects of Russian, like offshoots, kind of like how you have Cantonese and Mandarin and Chinese. Okay? They're dialects of each other. You can go learn those languages. Takes a long time to learn them, but you can go learn them. Okay? But also the fact that you can sit down and create new places, new words, just using this. Some of you might know that I use a screen name from time to time called Cecil of Rill. Most of you probably don't know, actually all of you probably don't know, that I created a world back in the day that I was going to create for a book series called The Seven Towers. And I created a town, a massive metropolis that was going to be kind of the center of the story called Rill. R-I-L. Where did I get that from? Well, in license plates in my state, used to have like 3 letters and then a dash and then 3 numbers. Okay? And they went to some other things from that, and then they've gone to some other things since then. But I used to go around, and I used to take those, and I would play around with other vowels and other things, because normally they'd either be like, normally they'd just be like 3 consonants, because we have more consonants than we do vowels. But one day I was driving along, and I saw R-I-L on one of them, and I was like, oh, Rill. Might be an interesting name for something. Wrote it down. We have the capacity. I mean, just look at, like, for instance, Star Wars. Okay? All the different places and planets and various things that happen, you know, all the stuff that goes on. Transformers. Same thing. Okay? We have the ability... Now, I should probably mention probably the most famous example of this. Dune. Okay? We have the ability to take certain things and throw them out and make brand new stuff with them. Okay? I have an entire shelf. It's got 6 cubbies, okay? 6 big cubbies that are full of gaming books, okay? And from just where I'm sitting, I mean, I have Star Wars, I have Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, I have Lone Wolf RPG, I have Dungeons and Dragons, I have Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40K, Lord of the Rings miniatures game, I have like Pathfinder, I have like a whole bunch of Deadlands. Think about it. I mean, there's many millions of board games and comics and books and everything out there. Okay, because it's not just music. I mean, it's just this is what people have done with just art, just taking words and rearranging them in a much different way to create something new that nobody has ever seen or done before. Or they take something that someone has done and they expand upon it. In the case of like Pathfinder, for instance, they took the original 3.5 and they expanded upon it. And they created their own version called Pathfinder. Paizo did. Okay? So yeah, this statement right here is absolutely... All human languages are thought to possess the same general structure and permit an almost limitless production of information for communication. This limitlessness has been described as making infinite use of finite means. I want to show one more and then we'll move on. One of my favorite animes of all time. The original OVAs of Record of Lodoss War. Love this. So good. And it's really, really well done. Okay? And I mean, this came out of one guy's mind. The original creator of the manga. Okay? And then they took that, the animators and the story writers and everybody took that, and they created an awesome anime series off of it. Okay? And one final one. This is another great one. I love Outlaw Star. In fact, I'm watching it right now. That's why I have it over there, is because I'm watching through it again, because I haven't seen it in a long time.
You're related to a strawberry and a tomato, then.
You can still understand that to be true, whilst also understanding that language evolved when it did.
No, it didn't evolve. That's the point, dude. They knew that in 1966. They said it's not evolutionarily possible when we reconstruct the original language to say that it was an early, like, primitive form of language because it was modern, sophisticated, and complete. That's the whole point, Dan. And that was your side making the argument. That wasn't our side saying that. It was your side saying that. Did you even look to see if what Kent had on the screen was that, or were you just trying to hand wave it away? I believe you were trying to hand wave that away. That's not evolution, man. That isn't. That has nothing to do with it. Because if we were to reconstruct that original language and it was not modern, sophisticated, and complete, then we could say, yes, that original language evolved into the languages of today. But we can't say that. We can say that they diverged at certain points where, you know, some groups were separated and then they broke off and their languages became different. And then those languages broke off and became different. And then those languages broke off and became different. Okay? And we can say, yes, that, you know, certain languages evolved from other languages. Okay? But when we go back, you can't say the same way that you say, oh, there was an amoeba or some single-celled organism over here, and then it suddenly and somehow and as if by magic came together and became a multicellular organism, and then somehow and as if by magic became a trilobite. And then somehow and as if by magic became fishies. And then somehow and as if by magic became reptiles. And then somehow and as if by magic became dinosaurs. Or somehow and as if by magic became birds. when we find birds in lower strata than dinosaurs. Oops! Bet you forgot about that one, didn't you? That being said, okay, when we backtrack language and we find that the language is just as modern, sophisticated, and complete as languages today, you can't say that that language was more primitive. Because if it's the same as the languages that we have now, it didn't evolve. It didn't go from simple to complex. It started complex. Gee, wonder where I've seen that before. Oh, that's right. Genesis chapter 1 and 2. God gave us language.
It carries on talking about evidence regarding languages and when they first appeared, which I don't think anyone is actually disputing. But then, he comes up with a theory.
I've got a theory of why the oldest language is only about 5,000 years old. God made everything about 6,000 years ago. God made Adam and Eve fully mature, able to walk, talk, get married first day.
It's true.
Surely the oldest language in the world should be 6,000 years then.
Not necessarily. Do we know what that original language was? Do we? No. When was the flood? 4,400 years ago. And like I said, the Sumerians and the Egyptians inflated their king lists to make them seem like they were older than they actually were. That's why they say about 5,000 years. When did Noah step off the ark? Oh, that's right, 4,400 years ago. When was the Tower of Babel? Within about 50 to 100 years of that. I'm sorry, what were you lying? See, this demonstrates a complete lack of knowledge in the Bible to be able to back up his claims of why language would be, why the earliest known languages were 5,000 years ago. Because again, the Egyptians inflated their ages to make them seem older than they were, to making them seem like they were older than the flood, that they had somehow survived the flood. They didn't survive the flood, son. Okay? But Noah stepped off the ark 4,400 years ago. That's within 600 years of 5,000. And when they say about 5,000, 600 years is a pretty reasonable time frame. Given the grand scheme of your billions of years. Okay? Considering that some of your error factors are 300,000 plus or minus 300,000, which is 100% error ratio. Okay? I'd say a 600-year span is pretty damn reasonable for language. Because it's not like Noah didn't know how to speak if you'd actually bothered to read the Bible. So that is actual evidence, son. Okay? This is actual evidence. Your willing ignorance of said evidence is not my problem. It's not Kent's problem. It's not Ken Ham's problem. It's not David Rives' problem. It's nobody's problem but yours.
Otherwise, you're suggesting that God let Adam and Eve talk, but no one else for 1,000 years.
Who said that? When did Kent ever say that? Did Kent ever say that? I don't remember Kent saying that. Because I'll bet if you go back and watch the actual video before SciManDan cut it off, I'll bet Kent actually mentions that, you know, that after that was the flood, about 4,400 years ago, and Adam and Eve, or Noah and his family spoke the same language as Adam and Eve because there was only one language up until the Tower of Babel, when God confused the languages and scattered the people. Because again, he's ignoring that because it totally defeats his purpose. So show me, Dan, chapter and verse, where it says in this book, right here, the Bible, that only Adam and Eve were allowed to speak for 1,000 years. Show me. Come on. Show me. Show me. Because guess what? I can disprove you in 2 seconds flat. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. In the course of time Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry, and why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. Oh, here it is, verse 8 in chapter 4 of Genesis. Cain spoke to Abel his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? Cain said, Am I my brother's keeper? Oh, wait a minute. There's language in chapter 4, which means no. God allowed people to speak for 1,000 years. It isn't until you get to chapter 11, okay, called the Tower of Babel, or Babel, okay, where it literally says in verse 1 of chapter 11, Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. Oh, I'm sorry, what were you lying? Yeah, the language didn't get confused until after the flood. So that means Noah and his 3 sons and their wives all spoke the same language. And then their descendants spoke the same language, and their descendants spoke the same language, and their descendants spoke the same language, until the Tower of Babel, when God came down and confused their languages and sent them out because they didn't want to go away. They wanted to build a tower. And God realized what one singular person, like a singular group of people, could do if they could all speak and talk and act in one accord. Hence the reason why he confused their languages. It's pretty damn simple. So again, the oldest language is 5,000 years old, which means Adam and Eve were created in the garden 6,000 years ago, if you add up the dates in the Bible. Cain was speaking the same language when he killed his brother Abel. Noah spoke the same language when they got off the ark, and it wasn't until chapter 11 at the Tower of Babel is when languages were confused. And those languages were modern, sophisticated, and complete. Oh, I'm sorry. What were you going to say? Come on. Come on. No, the languages didn't evolve, son. They changed over time, that's true, after they were confused. But there was one language on the earth from Adam to the Tower of Babel. Babel, Babel. It's all in how you pronounce it.
Jesus said, haven't you read? He which made them at the beginning, made them male and female, Adam and Eve.
Yep.
Jesus, hey, I told you that was the beginning. I think I lied? I made them. He should know. Okay? Bible says in 6 days the Lord made everything. Everything. All that in them is. Someday Judgment Day is going to call you atheists up and say, come here. I told you I made it all in 6 days. My book clearly showed it was about 6,000 years ago. Why would you think I lied? You think your little scientists were smarter than me?
And in what book, chapter and verse is that little passage in then, Kent?
It's pretty simple. You want me to read it for you? Because I can. I don't know if you really want me to. Do you want me to? Then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it. From his presence earth and sky fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne. The books were opened. Then another book was opened, which was the book of life. And the dead were judged by what was written in the books, according to what they had done. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one of them according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the Lamb's book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Revelation 20. I'm sorry, what were you trying to say? Come on. It's right there. You want the chapter and verse, okay? You want a chapter and verse. Revelation 20, 11 through 15. There you go, chapter and verse. Revelation 20, 11 through 15. There you go. You wanted to know. Okay? You're going to have to give an accounting for everything that you've done, son. Are you sure you want that known? All the sins you've ever committed in your life are going to be exposed for all to hear. Are you sure you want that to happen? Or would you rather have someone stand up and say, no, take that book away because I paid the debt for him? Or, since it's actually Jesus sitting on the throne, he'll look at that book, he'll see your name, he'll look in his Lamb's book of life, and he'll see your name in that book, and he'll go, nope, you're good, come through. Then he'll pull up the next one. Nope, your name's not in here. Here's your accounting. Lake of fire with you. Are you sure you want that? Because there's consequences for the life you live. We all are sinners. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, Romans 3:23. You sure you want to know? Sure you want people to know what you've done in your life, sin-wise? Come on, Dan, think about it.
Amazing. Just amazing. Do you think your little scientists are smarter than me?
He's talking from God's point of view, not from his own point of view. You see, this is what we call the projection fallacy, where Dan is trying to project what Kent said back onto himself as, like, you know, as Kent is the one saying, do you think your little scientists are smarter than me? When Kent is talking from God's point of view, where God is talking about you giving an accounting for your sins. And he's going to say, I gave you a book, you didn't bother to read it, and now you have to pay the penalty for not reading and understanding the book and living according to the way that my son lived. Now you have to give an account for your life of sin. And you're going to stand there and say, but I thought, and you're going to go, and that's when God says, did you think those scientists were smarter than me, the creator of the universe? That's what Kent is saying. Go back and watch the clip. Literally, go back and watch the clip. Here, let's play it again. Let's play it again, okay?
Days the Lord made everything. Everything. All that in them is. Someday, Judgment Day, he's going to call you atheists up and say, come here.
See, he's got Jesus, he's got a picture of Jesus on the throne. Okay? He's got like a courtroom of God, okay? With the angels and everything. And this is not Kent talking here, okay? He's coming at this from Jesus's or God's point of view. I told you I made it all in 6 days in my book, talking about God, okay? God's word, okay, shows it was about 6,000 years ago. Why would you think I lied? This is God speaking, not Kent, okay?
I told you I made it all in 6 days. My book clearly showed it was about 6,000 years ago. Why would you think I lied? You think your little scientists were smarter than me?
Now notice here he has a picture of Jesus on the throne. Okay? And that's what he's saying. He's coming at this from Jesus' point of view. Jesus saying to the atheists, to the evolutionists, do you think your little scientists were smarter than me, the man who created everything? Colossians 1:16 and 17. John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's what we're talking about here. Kent is not actually saying, hey scientists out there, you think you're smarter than me? Kent's not saying that. He's talking about Jesus. Look at the picture now. Understand where he's coming from. Okay? He's talking from Jesus' point of view, saying to like an atheist like Dan, saying, hey, Dan, did you think your scientists were smarter than me, the creator of the universe? Not, Dan, do you think your scientists are smarter than me, Kent Hovind? Kent Hovind isn't saying that. Do you understand that now? Okay? Now, listen to what Dan says.
And in what book, chapter and verse is that little passage in then, Kent? Amazing. Just amazing. Do you think your little scientists are smarter than me? Well, there we go. We'll leave Kent there.
See, he thinks that Kent is the one saying that. Son, it's Jesus. This is the book, son. I suggest you read it. I've got plenty. You need one? Let me know. Okay? I can send you a nice New Testament. Okay? And I would recommend that you start with the Gospel according to St. John. Okay? Then after you get done, you flip over to the book of the Romans, to the letter, Paul's letter to the Romans. Okay? I'll send you this. You just tell me where. Okay? Because the thing is that, again, that was not Kent Hovind talking about himself being smarter than the scientists. Kent Hovind was saying God's going to say that on Judgment Day. The day that you die, Dan, the day that you find out there is a God and there is a creator, just like Stephen Hawking did, okay, you're going to realize I probably should have listened to Kent Hovind better. I probably should have listened to Ken Ham better. I probably should have listened to David Rives. Probably should have listened to Russ. I probably should have listened to a whole bunch of other people out there. Because they were talking the truth. And I was stupid. But by then it would be too late. Because it's only what you do here that matters on the other side. And I hope if you're watching, if you've gotten this far, you understand I don't mean any ill will towards Dan. Okay? I don't. I don't mean any ill will towards you. But you have to realize that there are consequences for the life you live. Because we're all sinners. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And for all those Christians out there, probably know what I'm going to say. How sharp is your sword? Read this. I implore you as a Christian, read your Bible on a regular basis. Okay? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this series, as this is the last one because he's just going to go into his little outro here and then he's done. So as we say, we will see you on the next one.